I'm not eating that.
I'm not eating that.
Welcome to, or welcome back to, another episode of Your Food Looks Funny. I'm your host, Marcus T. If you haven't been here before, we talk about some picky subjects when it comes to food. We've expanded well beyond actual picky tendencies, so if you haven't checked out any of our episodes, please go back to the beginning. Make sure that you've heard at least something from the show before you get to this episode. But if you just want to stick around and listen to the end of this one, that would be great too. So today I randomly thought of a question. This will be a quick episode, by the way. Today I thought of a random question. And that question was, does your spouse or significant other need to know how to cook? Great question, right? How many people have ever thought of this? Is this a major consideration that you have when trying to pick a partner? Should they know how to cook? Or is this an outdated kind of matchmaking tendency that we don't seem to think of anymore, because ordering food and having it delivered is such a commonplace thing now that maybe you don't think about, maybe my wife or husband can cook for me today, or boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. We'll just go out to eat. But in today's society of a debt-centric culture, especially in my age range of millennials, student loan debt is a real thing. And I mention this because recently myself and my wife have gone through our budget and realized that the amount that we spend on food was ridiculous. Because even though I'm a chef and work in a kitchen, most of the time when I'm at home, I don't feel like cooking unless we have a preset plan that's already going to be implemented once I get home. Is the meal going to be ready quickly enough? How much work am I going to have to do with it? How much cleanup am I going to have to do? Am I really that tired? These are things you have to consider once you get home, and especially when both people are working, whether you're married or not, whether you live in the same place or not. Food is a major decision in most relationships, and where are we going to eat or what are we going to eat is a daily conversation that myself and my wife have. So before we talk more about present day and what's going on, let me talk to you a little bit in the past. Let's go back when me and my wife first got together. We just started dating. Our first date, she knows this story, and it's not like I'm throwing her under the bus. She knows it happens and she talks about it happening. But the first date we have, I go to see her because we weren't living in the same area. So I go to see her and she cooks for me. She cooks this nice steak. I think it was baked potato and salad. And then she made some garlic bread. She burns the bread. So she throws in a new batch of garlic bread. She burns the second batch. And she continues to this day to tell me that she doesn't bake. It was just garlic bread. And I'm not, talking down on her or anything. It was just bread. And sometimes she just questions herself and her abilities. It's not hard. She was just nervous. It was, again, our first time kind of being together, and she decided to cook, and everything else came out good. Sacrifice the bread if you have to. The steak was good, the potato was good. I'm not big on salad, but that I ate it. So if you're listening to this, Tamara, I ate the salad. I'm not big on salad. She knows that. Never mind. We've been married for 2 years now. She knows that. But going into it, I didn't have any expectations of her knowing how to cook. Yeah, it's great. It's a bonus. But did I need her to know how to cook? No, because I'm a chef, of course. But men, I don't get the opinions of a lot of men who aren't chefs, who don't do most of their own cooking. How do you feel about your wife, significant other, whoever, knowing how to cook? What do you expect them to know how to do? Do you have any expectations at all? Do you just want them to be able to say, hey, we're going to eat. It doesn't matter how we get it, but we're going to eat. And then if you do require them, not like it's a job application or anything, but if you do require them to know how to have some basic understanding of how to navigate the kitchen, do you want them to know how to make stuff you like? Or do you just want them to know how to cook something? Because if you're not a picky eater, you probably don't need to be listening to the show. I'm just kidding. Don't turn it off. This is for everybody. But if you wanted her or him to know how to cook, Do they need to know how to make your favorite dish? Is that what your definition of knowing how to cook is? Is knowing how to cook ... the stuff that I like? Because if they know how to cook something that you're not used to eating, are you willing to experiment with what they know? There are a lot of things that I know how to make and my wife just doesn't eat them. So I have to kind of slip some of them in every now and then in order to get her to eat them. For instance, my wife doesn't eat carrots, supposedly, but she eats carrots if they're in chicken noodle soup, which she just ate last week. So if you're hearing this, you admitted it and I saw it get eaten. Also, when I roast carrots, which again, she's also admitted, when I roast carrots, she likes them. And I think it's just because of she might have used to eating them canned or frozen and texture wasn't right or whatever. I understand that. You know, you can be turned off from certain ways of which you had food when you were a kid. That's kind of how mine stemmed. A lot of the foods that I don't like were because I didn't like them as a kid. And there are only a couple that have made it through to today that I still don't like. One of those being eggs. My wife loves eggs, but I get a chance to cook them because I cook them for her. I like to cook eggs. I just don't like to eat them. I can deal with the smell. I can deal with the look, the texture. None of that really affects me. But she has texture issues with certain things, but she likes eggs and I like to make eggs. So that works out for our relationship, that we can keep eggs in the house and they can get eaten. I don't just have to bake with them all the time. Another one of those things of, if you are in a male-female relationship, do you assign gender roles as far as your cooking? And I'll explain what I mean by this. The traditional sense of what a man cooks versus what a woman cooks in stereotypical fashion: a woman bakes. Well, my wife doesn't bake and I do. And a man is like the meat guy or the grill or the barbecue kind of person. They don't really do sides and desserts and stuff like that. I love doing that stuff. I also love to grill and barbecue and smoke meats as well. But if you were to ask anybody who knows my cooking and knows what I make, they'll probably refer you to a dessert before they refer you to something savory, because I love to bake. It's a good time passer. It's good to kind of zone out and bake, do something more scientific than it is to play the whole jazz of making a savory dish where you make adjustments here and there. And it's more of you have to keep your mind focused on what you're doing. And with baking, sometimes it's so straightforward with a recipe. It's so scientific that you can just go step by step and zone out for a couple hours. But my wife is more so the jazz kind of cooker. So she'll move around a little bit and adjust this and do that. And she'll ask me questions and I'll come in and help her out if she needs help. But otherwise, she'll follow a recipe, but it's mostly for things that are savory, steaks and meats and, you know, a few sides here and there. But when it comes to the baking and the intricacies of that kind of stuff, that's me. So do you fall prey to those same stereotypical standards of a relationship, that a man cooks this, that a woman cooks this, okay, that a certain culture should know how to cook this? Okay, if you are of a certain race or a certain culture and you get into a relationship with somebody who is not of the same culture, do you expect to get the kind of food that comes from their race and culture? Do you think of them as less than or better if they can go outside of their own comfort range? So because I am Black or African American, would you expect your Black or African American significant other to know how to cook soul food or, you know, any kind of Southern items? Would that be an expectation? I don't know if my wife and I have ever thought that through, simply because we both are of the same race and pretty much same culture, and we're also from the same state. So regionally, you know, if I live in the DC area, so do you expect somebody to love crab cakes, you know, mumbo sauce? If you never had mumbo sauce before, check it out. There are 350,000 recipes for it. That wasn't an exact number, but in general, there are a lot of different variations of this said sauce. In Atlanta, do you love peach cobbler? And before I get too far off on a tangent, you get the gist of what I'm saying with regional, racial, ethnic, cultural, cuisine. Do you expect the people that you are around? And this isn't just who you're dating, who you're married to, the people that you hang around. Do you expect them to like what you like? Do you expect them to be able to cook and serve what you like at events? And diving deeper into that, at a wedding, if you are a very picky eater, and I feel like picky sometimes comes across as a derogatory term, because picky can just be selective. That's the synonym I was looking for. Come on. Selective about your food choices. If you go to a wedding, say you're vegan or vegetarian, and somehow you slip through the cards on your RSVP that was chicken or fish, those were your two options for a particular wedding you were going to. Do you make the bride and groom aware of your options? Of what you're looking to eat? Or do you find food elsewhere before or after? What's your process of going through? That's a good one. If anybody has gone to a wedding and there was nothing that they really wanted to eat at the wedding, call or text the show. 419-777-4259 or 419-77-PICKY. Let me know what you decided to eat. Did you just gut it out and eat something at the wedding? Or did you find something to eat beforehand because you knew? Or you ate something afterwards because you were starving and all you did was dance and drink all night? So let me know how you made it through that. How'd you make it through? But again, thank you guys for listening. Relationships and cooking. Who should know how to cook what? Check out next week's episode. But I'll holler at y'all next week. All right. Make sure you're following us on Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen to Your Food Looks Funny. And call or text or reach out to the show and let us know what you think at 419-77-PICKY or 419-777-4259.